Good morning, everybody. Mike Dixon together with myself, David Goldstrom, on the final day of the Lillehammer Triple. The men's race coming a little later in classic style. It's the women 10 kilometers, catch me if you can pursuit, and the starting order for today's race as a result of the two previous legs. And it's Heidi Weng of Norway who's been successful first in the sprint and yesterday in the 5 kilometer freestyle is the woman who will be saying to the rest of the field, catch me if you can. So Mike, this is a challenge on a course which is one of the toughest, I would say, on the cross-country circuit. 5 notable climbs, and as Jessica Diggins said yesterday, you have to be mentally engaged. And before we get into today's race, a chance to look back at what happened 24 hours ago. Well, there is that really contagious smile of Jess Diggins, who came storming home. Fantastic on the downhill sections where she made a lot of time, and all credit to her serviceman, who she said gave her a great pair of skis. And it was a real chase to the end, and it was uncertain until probably the last kilometre, with Heidi Weng making up ground. But as it was, a very smiley Jessica Diggins from Minnesota, 2 World Cup wins, and very confident. A great start for her. And Jess Diggins, of course, the silver medalist from Falun over 10 kilometres freestyle. A great start to her season. Marit Bjørgen into ultimately what was going to be 3rd place. She said it wasn't her finest day, but she was happy enough with the race. And then Heidi Weng, well, Mike, you've been really impressed with her.
Heidi Weng, she's always been the nearly there girl, and again that was the case yesterday, but today leading out is a big bonus for Heidi.
Well, the good thing is how many different racers from different countries are successful in this early part of the season. But we focus on the race, the women's 10 kilometer pursuit classic, after this. Well, from Mike Dixon and myself, David Goldstrom, welcome on this rather chilly Sunday morning. It's -2 the air temperature, -4 the snow, as you see the standings after the first 2 legs of this Lillehammer Triple. And it's a race, as it always is with the pursuit. The leader computed after the first race, the classic sprint on Friday and the 5 kilometer freestyle race yesterday, will be saying to the rest of the field, catch me if you can. And that will be Norway's Heidi Weng. Interesting, Heidi Weng will be pursued by Ingvild Østberg and then Jess Diggins, and the first 3 all 25 years of age, really at the height of their powers, or at least coming into that phase. Well, Mike, it's the same 5 kilometer course. They do it twice, and all the racers here will tell you that this is one of the toughest cross-country tests they'll face all season.
Very, very much so, and that's where Jess Diggins said yesterday, being the fighter that she is, she feels good coming to this course. And especially, as you said, all these hard work climbs, very much you have to be good on your downhill sections as well.
For more information, visit world-snow-day.com.
Well, that's something to look forward to in a wee while, the snow day, which is to inspire everybody from all ages, not just the kids. 1 or 2 of you who might be a little longer in years, to get out, and whether it's to ski Langlauf or have an alpine day out, or even a sledge will do. Just get out on the snow wherever you happen to be. And the snow not bad up in Scotland, Mike.
It's been a good early start, I have to say, on the Cairngorms, over Fort William as well, and Glencoe. So yes, they're cold, and still cold up there at the moment. Expected to be -9 tonight in the Cairngorm area.
Yeah, that's getting chilly, although these young women, like us on occasion, are used to temperatures even well below that. I think the I think the worst I've ever been in was minus 45 in one of your favourite places, Kontiolahti in Finland.
That is good. It's cold up there. I think minus 37 has been my worst, and you can still actually go out and do a little training, but you have to be careful.
So there are the temperatures, and it's a classic race, Mike, so ski preparation.
Well, we've seen the technicians bringing their final preparation down into the stadium. In fact, a chance to look at the course. You mentioned this is recognised as one of the toughest. Look at the start. It's 800 metres, almost continual climb. And then we come back down into the stadium, but on a different loop the second time. And look at the climb at 3 kilometres right up to the high point. Almost a rise of 60 metres over a very short distance. And then a very fast easier part down into the stadium, but still a lot of strain through the legs working around the corners.
5 significant climbs in that 5 kilometres, but also, as we saw yesterday, the downhills really matter. Jess Diggins arguably won the race on the downhills.
And Heidi Weng alluded to that, didn't she? She said, well, I knew I wasn't going to match Diggins on the downhill. They're all aware how good she is, how aggressive she is, and the attacking of the corners. So well done to Diggins yesterday, and I hope she can fight with it today.
So there you have the starting list and the time intervals that they have to try and close up on Heidi Weng, who is really a terrific all-round skier. If you can remember the last World Championships, or indeed Sochi, bronze medals in the skiathlon, where you combine both classic and freestyle. And she, at 25 years of age now, is a really mature, much stronger athlete, and you know, mentally also much more confident. The mind and the body are together with Heidi.
Very much, and when you look at the past, the last 12 mini tours, Heidi has finished on the podium on 8 of these, but never on the high point of the podium. Today she must feel this is a big chance, that she really has landed in this new season, looking like she's going to be one of the key players.
And it's interesting you say that, because Østberg, who's going to be chasing her, she's never beaten Heidi Weng with a deficit of 20 seconds, which she's got, you know, today to catch up. And Jess Diggins, she said she's really worked on her classic. It's not her forte, but she's hoping that the work she's put in will really pay dividends today. But she'll fight, because that's one of her great characteristics.
And I think she'll get tied up in a little battle. David, she's sandwiched. Here she is between Østberg and Bjørgen. She'll try and stay with those two.
Yeah, it's interesting, because Heidi Weng was saying that, you know, Jess Diggins, I mean, it's contagious, this enthusiasm and smile right across not just the American team, but across everybody. And Ingvild Flugstad Østberg looking pretty strong. She's 8th in the World Cup rankings at the moment after the first races. And Heidi Weng, the World Cup leader in that yellow bib. Will it be her day? Will it be her first tour victory? Marit Bjørgen in the red bib. Didn't say, well, she said yesterday, it wasn't one of my finest days. I felt a bit tired on the first loop, but I'm happy enough with third at the end of it. But Marit Bjørgen, I think a terrific comeback, actually, having been a year out of the sport competitively, although we know she's been training since she gave birth to Marius, I think it is, isn't it?
Marius, that's right. And with Palmakoski, we've just seen, just gone past, I think she's 38 seconds. She'll really fight to haul the pack in if she can. And Jakobsen, a fine performance yesterday.
What's interesting about Palmakoski, because no Finn has won a tour since Verpi Koitinen won the Tour de Ski back in 2009. So that is a long time ago. The 10-kilometre classic pursuit. Heidi Weng leads out, having done such sterling work over the previous 2 days. 2 victories. Can she make it 3 out of 3 and earn herself her first ever tour victory? Mike Dixon, together with myself, David Goldstrom, and her closest pursuer, Ingvild Flugstad Østberg, 4th in the sprint, 5th yesterday in the freestyle race, and she chases out 20 seconds to find, 21 for Jess Diggins. A terrific 5-kilometre victory by her. Marit Bjørgen in the red bib going out there. She's got 26 seconds to find, and then Krista Palmakoski, the first for Finland, with 38 seconds to make up. wearing bib number 6, Astrid Jakobsen. 4th yesterday in the freestyle. Not so good in the sprint, though, on Friday. Disappointing there. And wearing 8, Ragnhild Haga for Norway. And then 9, Ida Ingersmar-Dotter, and 10, Hanna Falk for Sweden. Sweden, who've had a really positive start to the World Cup campaign.
They have, but the stats still look loaded for Norway. 6 Norwegians in the top 8 in the women's field. Not quite the same for the men's field. Now, is that a jump the gun there? I didn't quite see what happened from Sandra Ringwald.
Well, that could be a yellow card, or it could be a disqualification, but we'll have to wait and see whether that pops up. So there you can see, that's just about the only flat bit you get going out on the course here. That and the return into the stadium. Otherwise, it's work, work, work.
It's a real test, and look at this there. You can see the stadium in the background, and it's been climbing to this point, well, 150 metres of flat prior to this climb.
2 loops, Mike.
Yes, 2 separate, so they're coming back into the stadium, and then even after the stadium, so after 2.2 kilometres, they'll go out on a 2.8 kilometre track, and it is actually a much tougher climb the second time out of the stadium.
Now, each of these athletes working with their coaches, when you get a classic pursuit race, or any pursuit race, they'll have sat down last night and looked at the time differentials to, well, particularly their own team members. So Heidi Weng will have looked at that 20 seconds. She will know that Ersberg's never made up that sort of deficit on her.
They'll know that, but you could see the facial expressions. I thought of Heidi Weng and the way she was breathing. There was a lot of tension, a lot of nervousness in her body.
And there you've got Ersberg, Diggins closing up, Marit Bjørgen trying to also get on terms. If those 3 get together and work together, that could be quite interesting.
Well, Heidi Weng did say that. She expected Ersberg, she expected Marit Bjørgen to catch up Ersberg and then for them to work together. But Bjørgen, like yesterday, she's not having a great start to this race.
Minus 3.5 degrees, the snow temperature.
Yeah, which makes the waxing, we've seen very little evidence of slipping yet, makes the waxing relatively simple. It's around 0 where you get most difficulties, most problem finding the right wax.
Nice rhythm by Marit Bjørgen. That's it's great to see her back, isn't it? But that sort of just it's reminiscent. We've missed that for a year, sort of thing.
Yes, we have, absolutely. But I'm just a little concerned. Well, Marit still, she's actually closed down a second on Heidi, but she's not closing the gap.
Yeah, but Ersberg has held the deficit. They've held the deficit, and now the 3 of them getting together. There's Parmakoski. You might remember her as that Lautenmaki before she got married.
Actually, the fastest time to this point, Parmakoski. She's pulled back 3 on Heidi and 1 on Ersberg.
Yeah, Parmakoski, good form for Finland. She's lying 3rd in the overall World Cup rankings after the weekend initially in Finland. And there you can see making progress there. Katrin Hasem of Norway just getting on terms with, I think that was, Ida Ingersmar-Dotter of Sweden.
Sadie Björnsson as well. We missed her there. She went past number 12. And again, it's showing the depth, the strength, the self-confidence of this American team.
And very carefully stepping round there.
It's a tight bend. Look how tight that bend is. I thought they might move the bollards out a little.
Of course, this is a classic race, which means that you actually have to be quite careful not to break out into freestyle skates.
Very much so, and we saw it in the sprint races. So this is the 3rd day of intense racing, and of course the sprints on day 1, a couple of the Norwegians were penalised, yellow carded for infringements, as you said, of skating round the corner.
So they come back into the stadium, then they go out on the second part of this 5-kilometre examination where they've got the really big climb, and you can see there in single file Ersberg being pursued by Jess Diggins, then Marit Bjørgen, who looked as if she was closing up, but still some work to do.
Maybe like yesterday, Bjørgen, maybe she needs to do greater warm-ups, more intense input before she takes off. She's now taking a little longer to get up to her full pace.
Now, a lot was said about the downhills, how significant they were, both in the men's and the women's race.
Very much, and in the classic style, look at the shoes. They're coming just above the ankle bone. There's no ankle support whatsoever. So it's like having a running shoe with a little metal clip. Very flimsy shoes. So at speeds of 60 kilometers an hour, it's a balancing act coming around some of these corners.
Strong double poling here by Heidi Weng. Nicely balanced, that upper body, really straightforward. You wouldn't expect her to be feeling the exertions just at this stage. She's established her rhythm, and out of her left eye, she might just get a peek at Ersberg and Diggins and Bjørgen.
And her coach, remember, running alongside her at the top of the previous rise, she'll know exactly where Ersberg is, and it's slightly bad news because Ersberg is closing the gap.
Yeah, but only 2-3 seconds, so at the moment Heidi Weng will know that that's containable. Parmakoski continuing to make progress. Only 32 back. And Heidi Weng now, Mike, approaching the big climb.
There's a lot of tension, David. Heidi Weng realising it's not going all her own way. She's still comfortable, but there's a tension, isn't there? A panic almost in her stride. And that's quite tough when you're being chased down by the rest of the world. And it's a new position to her. Well, she did lead out in Canada, remember the mini tour there, but she had the most terrible glide in these warm conditions in Canada until Johaug pulled back 30 seconds easily and left her for another 30.
And as ever, Mike, the television doesn't really tell the story of just how punishing this particular climb is.
How cruel it is. Look further back. Now, this looks like, of course, it's Ersberg, and then back to Jessie Diggins in third, and then the two skiing together. Well, that's Marit Bjørgen being hauled in by Parmakoski.
Yeah, Parmakoski's just stepped out there to the left of your picture in the blue with Marit Bjørgen. And Jess Diggins, no disrespect, as she said, she's worked on a classic, but it isn't her strongest suit. And here you've got Ersberg trying to close a gap that she's never closed before on her Norwegian teammate.
Well, the Norwegian shouting 20 sekunde, so she's 20 seconds. She's still riding 20 seconds by his...
Well, that's a loss then. That means that Heidi Weng has actually, she gave away 3-4 seconds, and that 20-second gap check means that Ersberg has just dropped back a little off the pace.
Well, look at this, from fifth to third. Very good job from Finland.
Yeah, this is exceptional from Krista Parmakoski. She's the regular anchor in the Finnish relay team, and the Finnish relay team normally at the major championships you can certainly look for them to get a bronze medal, and I would think that would give them a chance again. Marit Bjørgen, and just behind her, Jess Diggins, who's just started to see her rock and roll a little bit with the shoulders going left and right.
And look at the tempo at the front from Heidi. It's flowing, it's continuous. Jess was beginning to have a hesitation in her stride, or in the whole cycle of movement. It's an incredibly tough hill. They started way down the bottom there, 64-meter rise.
Well, I guess Jess Diggins, if the servicemen have given her as good a pair of skis today as they gave her yesterday, what she'll be looking for is, once you get to the top of this, you've got this humongous downhill back towards the stadium, and she might just be able to pull back a little bit. And there you can see Ersberg now. That's actually a loss of 8 seconds since they left the stadium there. So Heidi Weng, really strong work. Parmakoski, arguably again the fastest on the race course, 35 seconds. She started the race 38 seconds back, but all the messages that we're getting from the stats say that Heidi Weng's doing a good job.
She's doing an excellent job. We saw the tension, we felt her pain, but she's keeping composed. And poor old Jess Diggins there slipping. This hill just doesn't quite stop yet. It goes up and up and up.
Well, Jess Diggins, she recognises her role as very much an inspiration to America's young cross-country skiers, and Heidi Weng all out on her own, so really important that she gets the accurate time checks from her coaches.
And what a big day for Heidi to have placed herself on the podium 8 times, as I mentioned earlier, 6 times in third place, only twice in second place in a mini tour. She's such a good all-rounder. She can sprint, she's very good in the freestyle, and as we see today, brilliant in the classic.
Yeah, well, we mentioned the fact that, you know, she was, you know, those bronze medals at the World Championships in skiathlon and the Olympic Games in Sochi as well in 2014. You know, she was 3rd best, and that was a pretty good effort to finish in the World Cup rankings 3rd last season. Now a season more mature, from 24 years of age to 25 years of age, and she's taken command extremely well.
This is the well-needed break. So after 12 minutes of intense power, you do have an opportunity now for the longest of the recoveries, about 20 seconds, but you're still working all down these descents and round the corners.
It was worth saying that Marit Bjørgen was trying to respond as well to the increase in pace.
Well, remember, sorry, David, there's still over 5 kilometres to go, and I think Marit will get into her stride a little more. She struggled this first 5. I think she might pull something back later.
Well, there you can see how the gap, she nibbled, then she bit, and then she lost.
She's attempting it. Østberg is really trying, and she may gain something on the descent back into this climb and down through the stadium. But you just feel that Heidi Weng wants this more than anybody.
Østberg's got her in her sight, but, you know, the camera, as ever, foreshortens that distance. There's Parmakoski coming round in 3rd place. Didn't quite control that corner as she would have wished. Was out quite wide.
So
Parmakoski, it'll be interesting to see, Mike, whether the sort of start she's made, whether that's going to cost her now on the second loop. Has she used a little bit too much gas early on?
She'll be well aware, and I think her coaches will have talked this strategy through. She's well aware that if you push too hard in the first 5, you are likely to suffer later. But she's gone with that. I think she's had to try and chase and close down, and then she'll be going for survival. Hang on. She's still going to try and pull back, haul back to Østberg, and maybe she will.
But it's interesting with Parmakoski because she's never finished on the podium in a World Cup Tour, so that's her motivation as much as it is to Heidi Weng. She finished 4th in the Tour de Ski in 2012, 2013 and 2014, Parmakoski.
Now, you mentioned earlier, look, the power, look at the way Heidi Weng is double poling. This is an aspect that she's improved on, and I think this is the aspect which has lifted her whole game. She's become more powerful through the arms, which multiplies when you look around all the profile of this track.
It's also a lot to do with improving your core strength.
And that holds, you're right, that holds in all the balance in the freestyle, and also this classic, you need a very, very strong balanced central
Nice
core.
little close-up there of Krista Parmakoski. She was 35, but she's nibbled away, so she has found a little on the downhill. That's downhill pace. And maybe that's why she looked a little ragged on the corner, because she let the skis run out.
She certainly pulled time back, and what a positive way to be, 10 seconds behind second place.
Jess Diggins, as you saw there, in 5th place, and here she is. Interesting, as I said, Weng's 25, Østberg's 25, Diggins is 25, Parmakoski's 25, Micah Kaspersen-Faller. We ought to try and bring you up to date with 1 or 2 others who are behind. Astrid Jacobsen has not had a great start, I have to say. Ragnhild Hilde in 6th place behind Jess Diggins. That's not a bad performance by Ragnhild. She started in 8th place. She's lost time, but she's gained position.
She has indeed, and Stina Nilsson, that's a very good performance from 27. She's moved up to 14th.
Yeah, the winner of the opening sprint in Kuopio in Kusamo a week ago.
She had a little bit of luck, remember, in the sprint races where she snapped her pole. It was her own fault, but coming in the home straight leading, she dropped back and didn't make it through to the next round.
Kowalczyk almost 2 minutes back. She started 1:46, so she's not made any ground. Very interesting about Kowalczyk. You remember when Marit Bjørgen, Mike, had those couple of seasons where she really lost form. She tried to do everything, couldn't do it, didn't seem to know how to manage her season, but then, of course, worked it out. And Kowalczyk's always been a very hard trainer, and she's never actually changed. As the years have come on, she's never found a way to change.
No, it's a real pity, and yeah, a couple of years ago, Kowalczyk went through a difficult period. I think she's come back stronger this season, and I would love to see her back on the podium for Poland.
So Heidi Weng now out on the first loop in this second rotation. 5.8 kilometers, and you can see here this early climb, but she's got a nice rhythm now, and she would have taken confidence from the splits coming out of the stadium.
I love the way Heidi Weng's moves. She's just so easy. She's a good runner, a top-class runner, and that translates to this, the classic skiing.
And you just saw there Østberg having to herringbone. That just gives you an idea of the steepness of the slope. And there's Parmakoski, and look at this. Østberg slightly hunched, Parmakoski hunting.
Very much so. The strides of Parmakoski in blue further behind. It's shorter strides. She's still got about 10 seconds to pull back, maybe just under 10.
Could be interesting, particularly after that last climb. Just depends on the respective pairs of skis, how they're going to run in the last phase.
Well, that's interesting, and here's the next bit of downhill. So Parmakoski, we saw her gaining maybe a little more on the downhill sections, and then on the very steep sections as well. You can see athletes in the far distance on another part of the course.
Yeah, this is a great shot here of Heidi Weng at work.
This is a lovely, her body position is fantastic. The lean from the hips, the lean forward from the upper body, transferring all her movement up the hill.
Yeah, and that's a great shot as well, because you'll see coming up over the rise, and there's a worthy prize for winning this tour, 33,500 Swiss francs to the winner, be you man or woman.
Oh, look, she's struggling, a lot of tension through the legs.
Yeah, she's had that on that corner every single time, but that's more obvious now because the fatigue is beginning to tell.
Very much. Your legs are, having climbed the amount of climb in this course, your legs are spent. I would like to see the others actually coming around that bend for a comparison. Østberg did it better.
Yeah. And where is Parmakoski?
Yep, just in the apex. That's not bad at all.
So for the front three, 2,800 meters to go. Østberg not really gaining on Heidi Weng. Parmakoski, though, has got a 10-second deficit down to just about 5, as you can see. But the interesting thing when we see them is to perhaps, as you see Marit Bjørgen going through there, the interesting for me is your assessment of Parmakoski and Østberg in terms of body language, but also equipment. Are Parmakoski's skis on the uphill better than Østberg's? I don't think so. And what about the downhills?
Well, I think you alluded to Parmakoski slipping a little as we saw her coming up the last climb, and I think that is the case. Maybe the wax is coming off a little, but it is allowing a slightly faster glide aspect on her skis compared to Østberg, so she is pulling back time on the descents.
And the Olympic sprint champion, Maika Kaspersson-Faller, just through there, as you can see, in a minute 27. And Stina Nielsen, that's a terrific effort there from the tall, elegant Swedish sprinter. She leads out here. That's a really big gain for her.
But my calculation, she's on about the 4th fastest ski time, Nielsen, but it moved from 27th to 7th, but she's still 1:30 behind. She started 1:23 behind.
Yeah, but it just shows you her continuing development to not be just a sprinter.
Oh, and she has improved on her classic. You're right, she was an outright sprinter. And then I think Nielsen, a little bit of luck, bad luck, as I mentioned, when she broke her pole.
As Heidi Weng just get a little concerned here when she handles these corners, because she's travelling at speed.
Now, the last time round this section, David, I know Parmakoski we might feel is beginning to slip a little bit. This is where she hauled a lot of time out of Bjørgen and Diggins.
The good thing about Parmakoski is that she's heading for her first ever podium. You can see the differentials there, how she's eaten into her time with Heidi Weng, but more relevantly, her relationship with Østberg, and how both Østberg and Parmakoski have pulled away from Marit Bjørgen.
Very much. Heidi Weng, she went for that short, sharp striding. She slipped a little on the steeper part. She's had to increase the tempo so that she's not kicking too far back, because she slips when she does that.
Very good point on technique. So when that happens, Mike, when you feel that you're not gripping as much, you have to change the technique.
You have to change. You can't kick as far back, so you have to shorten your stride and maybe just try and keep the hips a little further forward, so you're getting all the weight down through the skis, the little bit of grip that's left on the skis.
And she knows that once she's at the top of the climb, and she'll get a time check there from one of her coaches, and she'll know then, get another little bit of local enthusiasm.
I'm surprised she's not backing off a little now, David, because the coach said you've still got 22 seconds, and I thought maybe Weng would realise she may not need to panic quite as much now.
I think it's sometimes, there again, I don't know how you found it, Mike, when you were running. Sometimes you have a rhythm and a pace, and you're comfortable at that, and you don't actually want to change it. You just want to stay with that because you're feeling good.
No, of course, and you know, it would be foolish to back off. I was just thinking she could, but look at this, Palmer Koski.
Now, I was questioning Palmer Koski on the climb, so I'm suggesting here that Ersberg, who is blowing quite hard, is being hunted down. Now, if Palmer Koski has got the better skis on the downhill, this is going to be really interesting.
Palmer Koski, such a short in terms of height athlete, but the tempo comes through, and her skis are looking fine up this rise. Palmer Koski, I think, will haul in Ersberg.
Yeah. She's just that little bit stockier, isn't she, in physique, Palmer Koski, but very strong, and Heidi Weng striding out now. Now, Palmer Koski, this is interesting because she now presumably is thinking, I've got this woman, I can take this woman, but where do I take her?
Maybe, David, maybe she'll allow herself, or maybe she'll try and pass Ersberg down this fast descent, because remember, there's only one climb left after this big one.
But remember, Ersberg is a top-class sprinter, Olympic silver medalist. So Heidi Weng with that cushion of 24 seconds. That's good enough to see her home. It's fascinating. To me, it would suggest that Palmer Koski needs to make use of that downhill advantage to get away from Ersberg and not leave it to a final sprint.
I think you're right. So she has to try and nip past Ersberg on this next descent, or get rid of her on the next climb. Marit Bjørgen, she won the 10-kilometre classic last weekend. She's not at the races this weekend.
No, but it's early days, and you know, I still think the comeback is pretty good. And there's Palmer Koski now matching Ersberg. Look at the shoulders of Ersberg, they're just a little hunched, aren't they?
They are, and Palmer Koski keeping her hands a little lower, getting good purchase through from the ski poles.
So 27, Stina Nielsen leading the posse, ahead there of Chekaleva of Russia. But you can see a big gap back there. 14 who has lost position there, Laura Mononen of Finland. And Jess Diggins now has found this a real tough test. And Heidi Weng coming down now towards the closing stages here. Now, there's a tricky corner or two that she needs to negotiate.
Well, you could get the feel how steep that descent is, and yes, your lungs are bursting at the top of that, your legs are fatigued, so you really have to be centred. You have to keep a low position to help your balance.
So, Ersberg leading Palmer Koski on this downhill. And maybe with these tricky corners, not the moment for Palmer Koski quite to make her move. And Weng now watch this.
Hands going wide. She lifts her hands up high, which is not the best. Well, they're keeping them low this time.
Keeps them forward, though. Carries the speed round. That was actually nicely done.
I think she was just looking so tentative because she really didn't want it to trip over, didn't want to fall. At this time, Palmer Koski ahead.
Yeah, she's waited until she had that straighter section to go past and leads into the corner now. And she's got to put the power on. Now she's really got to... Whoa! She did too much power. And too much weight on that inside ski, and she's given second place to Ersberg. Now, Palmer Koski has got to get up quickly because Marit Bjørgen is only 20-odd seconds, 30-odd seconds behind her.
Very much, but the inspiration now that Ersberg will take from seeing Palmer Koski fall, I think now Palmer Koski's just completely wiped her chances out.
Well, she hasn't given up. I give her fantastic credit because it knocks the wind out of you apart from anything else, and she's chasing now. You can see how Ersberg has shortened up. The tempo has increased here. That's the sprinter in her.
She took the wrong line, David. She didn't take it wide in. She took it very tight in, which left her no chance coming out with the pace that she had in that bend. That's a real pity for Palmer Koski.
Yeah, apologies if you're hearing a bit of French commentary over Mike and myself, but Heidi Weng, this is the moment. Never ever before has she won a World Cup Tour She won the sprint on Friday in classic style. She was the best performer over the freestyle, only bettered by Jess Diggins, and now she takes the triple and wins the Lillehammer triple. Coming in second place here, a fortunate Ersberg, perhaps some would say, to take second place, and then Parmakoski. Well, she gave it a great shot, but for her, that is her first ever podium on a World Cup tour.
That's good to see a little smile. She's thinking, you fool, why did I fall? But I fell, and I just had to get on with it. Ersberg saying, what happened?
Yeah, apologies if you've got a lot of French commentary coming through from another event. Our technicians are trying to sort that out. And coming through now, Marit Bjørgen wearing the red bib. It'll be interesting to hear her take on today's race. Well, that's an indication. She's little hand raised there to finish in fourth place. There are the first one. They've really dominated the race. The other athlete, we have to take our hat off to Stina Nielsen, who's coming in now, Mike, and this is a terrific effort.
Yes, I think this is
bib number 27. Now she's finished there. Stina Nielsen 126. She started 123 back. That is a fantastic effort to only lose 3 seconds to Heidi Weng.
And that's still about the fourth fastest time, maybe the third fastest time.
Chekalaiva, decent effort from the best of the Russians. Maika Kaspersen-Faller, the Olympic sprint champion. But all of these women, they might have made positions, but they haven't made time.
They haven't. And Jess Diggins, well, she's one of the ones who've dropped further back from third down to 8th position.
So Heidi Weng there, 28 minutes 46.1, and of course lots of bonus points as a result of this victory. It's not just the 50 points per leg, but it's the bonus at the end of it which really enhances her position at the top of the World Cup table in these early days of this new cross-country season. Yeah, well, our apologies if you had a mix of French and English there, but I hope it hasn't upset your enjoyment of what has been a fine exhibition of front running by Heidi Weng.
Very much. Further back, we saw her come in, Stadlober, 33rd, up to 15th, the young and talented Austrian, showing that classic is her forte.
So the rest of the field rather trailing in here. Marta Kristoffersen there, really so sad because she was a really terrific junior talent, Marta Kristoffersen, but hasn't progressed. The Heidi Wengs and the Ersbergs have sort of overtaken her. And Ishida, very experienced Japanese specialist in classic, but a long way back. But there, centre picture, as she should be. Heidi Weng, Norway, first time World Cup Tour winner. Terrific. So and you might have noticed Lotte Weng there, Heidi's cousin coming in, but there's your 1, 2, 3. Heidi Weng, Ersberg, and then Parmakoski, soon to be presented with their prizes. 3 very happy young women there, and Heidi Weng, though, now a big step forward in terms of her personal CV. Another victory, 5 World Cup wins, and everything moving forward. And important to capitalise on this purple patch in which she finds herself. But interesting to see, Mike, how she might manage the rest of the season, given that she'll have one eye on perhaps the Tour de Ski and 2 eyes on the Nordic Ski World Championships.
Yes, and traditionally we've seen her maintaining her strength from November all the way through to end of March, so I think she will be strong again this year.
So confirmation once again of the final result there. In 6th place there, Chekalaeva of Russia. She lost time, the best part of 30 seconds, but that's a really good move from 13th up to 6th place. You already mentioned, Mike, Teresa Stadlober. That's a good effort from her. And Stina Nilsson, we have to highlight as well, 27th place up into 5th. An exceptionally good run by her. And she only gave away 3 seconds. But here you can see Ingvild Flugstad-Ösberg. She was second, but was she fortunate to hang on to 2nd place, because Parma Koski got ahead of her, but then actually carried too much speed into that corner because she'd overtaken her on the downhill, couldn't control coming into the corner, too much weight on the inside ski, and Ösberg left to finish comfortably in 2nd place.
Couldn't make it up. And in the most important part of the race, she'd made her move, Parma Koski, to pass Ösberg. A huge effort to do that, and then a small mistake.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing from Heidi Weng. I reckon she's going to be as joyous as Jessica Diggins was yesterday. And hopefully we can get to her in the next few moments. Very strong double poling, and as you say, she looks that bit stronger, doesn't she, this year?
Yes, you've got to look at your weaknesses, and her only weakness has been her upper body strength, and she has put that right this summer.
Corners are just take it easy, and the first lap I felt very good, but then I was so tired, so stiff, so in the corners I just take it easy, and I thought that you cannot fail. So I'm so happy today. It was not my best day in my tour, but it was good.
Well, you made a not a favorite day look very good out there. It was a very impressive performance. So congratulations on your first tour victory.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, interesting there. 3 days does have an effect on you, and there's confirmation of it. Ösberg pretty solid there, as we said right at the beginning of the race, Mike. She's never closed a gap of 20 seconds in her life. She nibbled a little bit, lost a little bit, nibbled again. And Parma Koski, well, she probably would have been second had she not fallen. But again, her first podium.
Her first podium. But I think that Ösberg and Weng, they're so well matched. They can both sprint, they're both good in freestyle and classic. They're going to push each other this season.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this action here. Congratulations to Heidi Weng. Mike and myself will be back a little later in the morning for the men's race over 15 kilometres in classic style. But for the moment, thank you for your company, and we'll see you a bit later. For now, bye-bye from Lillehammer.